had to decide between auditioning for The Daily Show or SNL. Hey, we've never done this before, but we want to pay you not to be on the show.
Rejection hurts. Failure hurts, doesn't it?
Eye contact is going extinct.
The greatest value you can show somebody is giving them your undivided attention. It just takes a second to share with somebody that you believe in that, right?
Being human is never going to go out of style.
No.
In my first class, I realized that improv...
Hey, welcome everybody. It's Preston Poore. Welcome to PQ'd. I'm so excited you're here today. Ross Kimball's here, and I'll explain who he is in just a second, and he'll have a chance to introduce himself. Man, I'm excited for you to be here today. But we're talking about a subject I think that a lot of folks have dealt with, and that's failure and rejection. And how do you handle that? How do you overcome the adversity and walk through that and learn from that? And so we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about Ross's career because he's been a big failure so far. No, I'm just kidding. He's not been a big failure. He's over here laughing at me. He's been very successful. I'd love to talk about how we met too, right, in the exchange and how we connected and all that. So, but I want to tell a quick story, just kind of prime the pump a little bit. About 10 years ago, I started writing this book called Disciple Leader, and it's not here. I'm not here to promote it or anything. Obviously, if you want to buy a copy, please do. But the reason I want to bring this story up is 10 years ago, I got this, I guess really just idea that there was a need in the marketplace and in the church to talk about how to live out your faith in the workplace. And so over those 10 years, I would wake up Saturday mornings, write chapters, get stuff out to people, get feedback. Feedback was always hard to get sometimes around all that as you're writing. But when it came down to actually getting a book published, it was absolutely amazing. I've been through a lot on that. As a matter of fact, at 10 years in writing, I just got some notes here because there are so many things to mention for you. I had 2 agents, and I'll tell you a story about that in just a second, believe it or not. Was dropped by one agency and then moved to another, but it all worked out in the end. I had 3 editors on the book. I had over 30 publishing house rejections. I had 2 publishers, and that's a whole nother story. We won't go through that today. Countless revisions, and then finally the book made it to market. But I want to share a quick story as we do that about an actual rejection that I had that I thought was the tipping point for me and that I wasn't going to move forward anymore. And it was with an agency I call Tenet. I wrote a blog on this a few years back because I love to express my thoughts in writing and all of it. But I got this email from my agent. And I don't know if you've ever experienced something like this before. Guy signs me, he's excited, we're moving forward, but I started calling him Waldo because I never knew where he was. I never heard from him, right? There was
Sounds like an agent, Preston.
Right? Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know. It's my first rodeo, right? And I got this note from him, and I'll make this quick here. It says, I'm writing today to let you know that as a result of some health struggles, I've made the difficult decision to step away from agenting effective immediately. He goes on and says, unfortunately, this means that the representation agreement between you and Tenet will be terminated, and you should expect the termination letter soon. That was fun. You just get that popping up on your email, right? And that the subject line was changes at Tenet. Now, this is not the real agency's name. I've masked it all on that. And then so I email him back. He says, he'd be available for questions. Crickets. Never heard anything.
I got a few.
So, So I go to the guy and ask the question. And I find out who actually the owner of the agency was. And so I sent him a note. And I made my case for trying to stay with him and saying, hey, I'm building my platform. I'm doing the things you need. Here's the response I got from him. He says, if, in this, the book, Disciple Leader, is an important topic and the presentation is well done, your social media is steadily improving, but is not yet where our publishers would consider successful. Let that sink in. You've worked so hard over this time. And it wouldn't be fair to our next agent to continue down the path we've gone, so I'll be sending out a letter today confirming our decision. A fresh pair of eyes might be exactly what the project needs. Let that sink in. I was rejected time and time again through this whole process. Now, there's 3 things that I want to bring up that people might hear, and then I have 3 lessons. Then I want to move into our discussion real quick because I want to connect with you on a very human level, right, about experiencing failure and rejection. But if you're listening to this, you might have heard phrases like, we like your work and skill set, but we've decided to go a different direction. Or maybe you've heard, we regret to inform you that you've not been accepted. Or lastly, even, I'm afraid that we have to pass on your proposal. There's 3 things I would take away from this. One is that rejection hurts, failure hurts, doesn't it? It's okay to accept that it's a painful type process. I wanted to admit myself I needed to be a stoic and not be emotional with it, but there was some emotion behind that, because you've got a baby that you've written and people are rejecting it right and left. What do you do? But what I had to do is I had to think about my why. That's the number 2 thing I would recommend people. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What's that North Star for me? How am I moving forward in that? And why was I doing it? And the last but not least I would mention is really just around resilience. Keep going. And I had to have that perseverance to keep in that race. And the good news is that it was finally picked up by another agent. It was published. It's not lighting the world on fire, but it is having an impact on people's lives.
I will say that.
Okay.
I would say the people that you are handing it to, such as myself, you're lighting on fire. And it's hardcover.
Yeah, it is hardcover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really? It's hardcover, right? So it's good
great.
stuff. So it's not a pity story, but what I want to do today, Ross, I want to bring you into the conversation. So one, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you here. Give you a second just in a moment to introduce yourself to the audience. But I want to just talk a little bit about this issue about how do we, in your experiences, when you experience rejection, when you experience that failure, what are the emotions that go on inside? How do you go to an audition and then you think you've got it and then you get the phone call and they say no, right? Tell me, let's start with who you are, why you're here, how we met and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Before I do that, I will say a lot of times you don't even get the phone call. You go to the audition, you crush, and then you just go about your day. And that took me a long time to figure out. I am Ross Kimball. I am an actor, a comedian, communication coach, father, son, husband, friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
That.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I just moved here to Atlanta. I'm originally from Chicago, was in LA for decades, doing comedy, doing high pressure communication stuff in front of the camera, behind the camera, on stage. And I am still just trying to figure out. I call myself a magnificent failure. And one of the first, first I do, yeah. Actually, I don't get introduced that way anymore because I was at a financial planner sales kickoff. Yeah. And that was how they ended my intro. And
that you were a magnificent failure.
He's done this, he's other nominations, he's been on this show, he's auditioned for this and this and this. And please welcome to the stage, a magnificent failure. His words, not mine. Ross Kimball.
Try growing up with the last name Poore. Nice, right? Sorry.
No, I mean, you want to talk about resilience. I mean, you have to, I'll go back to the whole, let's just talk about, when you talk about what are the emotions and how do you feel when you don't get something or you think you're going to get something and you don't get something? That's a real thing. And what you said right off the bat, acceptance is something that people, it's like the fourth thing people think of. And immediately, especially if you are highly skilled, if you're a high performer and you don't get something where you're like, this makes sense on paper. Like, I'm a good writer. I have stories. Right. My sales taxes are great. People like me. How come I didn't get this thing? It's immediate blaming. The blame happens, and then the pity happens, and then it's like, I never want to feel this again, so I'm never going to do this again. Yeah. And then the acceptance of, okay, well, I guess this won't happen for me. Instead of, and we can talk about this more in depth, but surrounding yourself with people that are going to support you, really trusting your skills. Yeah. A lot of it's a timing thing, especially, in your world and in my world, it's a timing thing. It's like, this is great. That opening will happen. Keep doing your thing. Right. And it's working when no one's looking. It's that whole adage, and I know this gets thrown out to athletes a lot, but it's what are you working on right now? Yeah. That when that door opens, when that email happens, when someone knocks on your door and says, hey, you have a minute? And you get that opportunity, are you ready? Yeah. So that's what gets built into my resilience. And a lot of people are surprised when they hear that I don't hear no's anymore. I think because I've heard so many no's in my life. My background is in comedy. My background is in Hollywood, auditioning for shows and writing TV shows. When you were talking about writing, and you're like, this is great. And they go, great, we're going a different direction. Yeah. I've had hundreds of emails being like, great, we're going a different direction. This character is probably like 5'8", 5'9". I'm 6'7". So I'm perfect TV and perfect TV height. Yeah, right. Perfect. So fit right in there. That's my background. My background is I was a 6th grade teacher. Long and short of it is I was really bad at communicating, was very up in my head my whole life. Life. Yeah, I was not this way 15 years ago. Okay. Probably wouldn't have showed up to this, honestly. 5 minutes before, I'd been like, I'm not feeling good. The imposter syndrome controlled what I did, even if I was invited to things. So I needed to get better. I was secretly a huge comedy fan, and I was not allowed to watch The Simpsons or Seinfeld or Friends.
In the home you grew up,
in my home,
couldn't watch those.
Okay, so I grew up in a home where it's like we watch I Love Lucy, The Honeymooners, Three Stooges. Like, so I grew up watching what probably close to what you watch. Like
Yeah,
I Love Lucy,
right.
all those stuff.
Thanks for aging
So
me
that
there.
was
That's good. Yeah, appreciate
we're only
that.
4 years apart.
Like what you love.
Yeah. And Bob Newhart, who's still my hero.
Oh yeah, he's great.
And that was my sensibilities. And so I never wanted to ruin it. It was one of those things where I loved it so much where I just wanted to be a fan and I didn't want to bug around with it. But the Lord had a different plan for me because I was the fourth funniest friend in my friend group, which is a sweet spot. That's a sweet
Right
spot
in the
where you
middle.
want to be. Also, that's like knowledge-wise, that's where you want to be with your friend group because then you can surprise
fourth
people
funniest.
and you never want to disappoint
good.
people. So it's like that
Like it.
sweet spot.
Yeah.
And I was 3 years into teaching, and I was like, I got to do it. I'm in Chicago. I'm in the quote unquote birthplace of improv comedy. This is where SNL kind of is born. Like people get found here and go there. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to take an improv class. And so I took an improv class thinking what everyone thought about improv, where it's whose line is it anyway? I got to be super fast. I got to be super funny. I got to be quicker than the other person.
Right.
And my first class, I realized that improv was this. It's all about listening and responding, not reacting, but responding, being in the moment. How do I make that other person look good?
Oh, so good.
And it was, I walked out of there floating. And it was a few things, realizing, okay, improv is really about how I can just show up better in life. And you know this, where you feel the pressure lifting off your shoulders when you are focused on other people.
Oh yeah.
And that's so key in leadership, where it's like, oh, what can I do? What can I do? Instead of, okay, how can I make this person look good? How can I set this person up for success?
Right.
That way, simpatico.
That's good.
Spanish for simpatico.
Very
So
good. Yeah.
I
Translated.
appreciate that.
Very
Adios. So all that to say, did the sixth grade teaching for, close to 5 years at the same time doing shows for free at night. All my 20s, I did something I loved for free, and I got pretty decent at it. And should I just go right into what happened? Or,
Well, let's do that.
That's kind of my story. I feel like I'm talking a lot, but that's my story.
You're riffing and
I appreciate
improv,
it.
right?
I appreciate it. Yeah, we're in the moment, man.
And
I
doing all
appreciate
that.
it.
So tell me a little bit about some of this. How does the improv, that being present in the moment, help not only with your career, but how does it help with you personally too, right? How does it help individuals? Because a lot of people talk about being in the moment, yet I hear so many people struggling with distractions. So let's go down that rabbit trail for just a second, because I think that's where the connection comes in. Is that correct?
Oh, big time, big time. I think it all starts with listening. And I think being in the moment it's a cliche now because we have technology, because AI, all this stuff gets thrown around where it's like, how can we stay in the moment? Being human is never going to go out of style.
No.
So listening, actually staying connected, asking those questions, again, going back to how can I make you look good? And if we both are thinking that, we're both making each other look great.
Yeah.
And the distraction thing, I don't think that's ever going to go away. I truly believe it's a choice that you have to choose that, okay, I'm with Preston, and all those other things are going to happen when they happen, but I'm here with you. Because a lot of times what we do is we take 3 steps forward. We're not even listening. We're just waiting for that other person to stop talking so I can say my thing.
That's right.
My classic example is whenever you're leaving a store and you're on to your next thing and the person behind the counter says, have a good day, and you go, no thanks. Because you're like on to their next thing. You're assuming that they're going to say. It's just like you're reacting to just something I heard. Oh, I'm good. Thanks.
Right.
And really just taking a second. And a lot of times, Preston, it's 0.75 seconds of you just pausing. Boom. Heard that. Great.
Yep.
And most of the time, the things that are, I see this in leaders all the time that I'm working with. A lot of times it's just listening to what's happening. And that'll answer 3 other questions that you have down the road.
Oh, yeah.
And that is, it's harder and harder, especially I think for people my age, our age and younger, where so many distractions are keeping them from being the leader, the speaker, the communicator, the person in a relationship, whether that be a friendship or a romantic relationship, being the best that they can be.
Yeah,
and I know that's cliche, being the best that they can be, but it's truly having these pillars of improv and the SN mindset and that growth mindset implanted in you, not only just developing it, but it's maintaining it, changes everything. Changes everything.
There's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in there, so thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I remember often when I got into a bigger role with the Coca-Cola Company, I moved from having one report to 15 and millions of dollars in a budget and all kinds. It was a Rubik's Cube, if you will, of things that we did in the department I was leading. But I'll never forget people coming in my office. I had an open door policy, but I had so many other things going on. I was easily distracted, and I really didn't focus on the person that came in. And it's one thing to have my wife call me out and saying, "Press, are you paying attention to what I'm saying?" That happens quite frequently, right?
Sure. My household too,
all the time, right?
Yeah.
But when an associate calls you out, right, and looks at you and says, "Have you heard what I've said?" And you're like, "Oh wow!" And so that was a major thing for me to step back. And somebody said something a while ago, Ross, that impacted me was that the greatest value you can show somebody is giving them your undivided attention and listening to them in that moment. And so important in improv too, right?
And improv, and also in sales and anything where you become my big thing when I talk to salespeople, and I'm getting pretty good at where it's you want to become top of mind. And so people will still be buying from people. So it's like, oh, you know who listens to me, or you know who makes me feel good? And a lot of times it's them talking the most because you're asking questions. You're like, you know, who's good to hang? Or I'm going to buy from Preston because I trust him. I like him.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of that is just giving them your time and your undivided attention. Eye contact is going extinct. Oh, Preston.
All over the place.
Oh, all over the place. I mean, I'm buying coffee. We have our coffee shop over here. And person right here, and I go, all right, have a good day. And I'll just hang out there and wait for them to look up. And they go, oh, yeah, you too. I'm like, all right, we'll see you. And so it's one of these things where, again, these are all skills. We can all get better at it. Yeah. But I just love that improv is something that I can bring wherever I go.
That's awesome.
It's not like willy-nilly. It's not like, yeah, we're just going to wing it. It's if you actually just take the really tenets of not to call back your fake publishing, but
nice.
the tenets of improv comedy that goes wherever you go.
Right.
So
so good. Well, let's continue your story now.
Sure.
So you were in Chicago, right? Is where you were telling me. So take me from there.
So Chicago, I was doing improv 7 nights a week in front of 120 people to 3 people in an underground bar when the DJ wouldn't turn the music down. And so just doing it because I loved it. Yeah. And I had an opportunity a few times to audition for SNL, but I didn't think I was ready. It was either a time thing because in the summertime I was an outdoor guide. So one time I was in Wyoming, one time I was in Florida scuba diving. I got sick, had to go back, lost all this weight. I had a headache. I had to get like a spinal tap, which I wasn't ready for, and I did not sign off for. Longer story, had a headache for 2 weeks, lost all this weight. And I was really bummed because I thought I missed my window to audition for SNL because SNL goes to the big hubs to find the next talent. So it's New York, Chicago, LA, sometimes it's Atlanta. Atlanta's getting there. And I didn't think I was ready. And I get a call from Sharna Halpern, who owns IO Theater, which everyone knows Second City, but IO is where everyone did a lot of long form. Like all your favorites did. And so they're like, and she talks like this. She's like, Ross, hey, honey, do you have your 5 minutes? And that your 5 minutes that's what everyone works on. After your first improv class in Chicago, they go, you got to work on your 5 minutes because SNL's coming. So your 5 minutes is all you get. Really? SNL. You only get 5 minutes. You don't get 4 minutes and 17 seconds or 5 minutes and 10 seconds. They want you to hit that post. Because it is such a high pressure cooker situation. They know you're funny. They want to see if you can be that funny
inside that pressure cooker.
Yeah. And if you can perform, if you can do the thing that you do.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I got my 5 minutes. And so I did my 5 minutes, got flown out with 4 other people from Chicago. And that was insane. And my keynote, the big thing in the keynote that I talk about is how do we show up better? So you have the skills, you have the stuff. How do you actually show up and do your thing when it counts? And I have hundreds of stories about meeting Lorne, how they ice you. They ice me in this green room.
No, so sit back for a second.
I know. There's too many stories.
So when we first met, and I want to share that real quick, you were so kind to just reach out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, I'd love to get to know you kind of thing. So we met for coffee, and I was just captivated by this story. All the stories you tell me were a lot of fun to listen to you. But this story about your experience with Saturday Night Live and Lorne Michaels. I just got done watching, like a lot of people did, the 50th anniversary special that was on TV. So kind of a big deal right now in terms of all that. But share with the audience, if you will, a little bit about that story about how you went in and you talked to him, and then I want to hear about how things went afterward.
Absolutely. So I do the audition, and they say Lorne wants to meet with you. And when you get asked that, that usually means they can see you on the show. That's a good sign. And then on top of that, if you get a weird, random story about a past cast member out of nowhere, that's a great sign. That means like, get your New York passport because it's happening.
Yeah, right.
So we're sitting there, and it's me and my first improv teacher ever, Ross Bryant. We're sitting on the couch waiting for Lorne, and then 8 other people from LA, and we don't know them. And you know, comedians are great. There's a small community, but sometimes it's like Chicago versus LA type thing. So we're kind of sitting by ourselves. Everyone in LA goes to meet Lorne. They come back out. And it seems like everyone's breathing a little heavier because it gets real at that point. Because people get flown out and then they get flown back home. But when you're waiting to meet with them, it's a real thing. And this was something I was not expecting. So I'm sitting there, and everyone goes in, and I'm thinking I'm next or Ross is next, and we don't get called. Lorne's assistant comes out with a clipboard and says, Ross. And we both raise our hand. And we go, yeah, we're both there. Yeah. He goes, you know, Lorne, he just left for the ballet. Are you guys going to be around? And we're like, I mean, I don't have a flight. I don't have a hotel. She's like, oh, no, we can stick around. Do you have anything going on tomorrow? Yeah. I was like, it could be my grandma's funeral tomorrow. Like, I've got nothing going on. Right. so I'm like, yeah, I'm free. You can do it. My grandma was fine. But I said, yeah, we're here. So Ross and I, we had dinner and walked around Chicago. I need to back up a little bit because it wasn't just we didn't have a hotel or flight back home. Ross and I were already back at the airport, and it was 10 minutes before our flight was boarding. So our bags flew back to Chicago. Oh, no. So we had nothing. So we went to Target. We got toothpaste, all this stuff. So I go back the next day in the morning, have my coffee, and I'm sitting there, and then Lorne's assistant comes in. He's like, all right, Lorne, we'll see you right now. And I could talk about this moment from the door opening to swinging fully open for 45 minutes. Yeah. You open it up, the walls are covered in black and white photos with like him and Elvis, him and Nixon, him and Chevy, him and Gilda. And I'm like, and there's vines everywhere. I'm sure there was like just one vine, but like in my mind, it was just like, there was a vine, a big fish tank that you always hear, like in the comedy scene, like you always hear about, like, what's Lorne's office? Like, you have his fish tank, and then right next to it is the popcorn machine. Yes. The famous popcorn machine where it's Monday night read through or Monday night pitch. He's eating popcorn, listening to all the ideas. So I sit down, and I'm a bigger guy. Yeah. So I sit down, and I'm like this. I'm so low, and his desk is like right at my eye
power
level.
move.
Yes.
Huh? Right?
So I'm like right here. Yeah. And he goes, and he talks like Dr. Evil, because Dr. Evil is based off of Lorne. So
I did not know that.
You know, just like this.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not going to do it the whole time, but it's like, think of Dr. Evil. He's like this. And I go, I don't start. So my dad, I come from, my dad raised me and my mom raised me, but both my parents were business people. So I have a background. Between 5th and 12th grade, every summer my dad would do mock interviews with us. Oh. Just to get ready for job interviews, awesome. Which is great. That's great. So I knew how to do job interviews. So I just waited. I waited for him to talk first. And he goes, okay. Didn't look at me the whole time either. It was so funny. He goes, all right, so we can see you on the show. You're very funny, very funny. I like your characters. I like the jet ski bit you did. It's very funny, which is like one of like the stupidest bits I do, but he liked it. And I go, great. And so I'm great. Great. I think height might be an issue. I go, great. Yeah, I can do whatever. And he goes, yeah, we'll work on that. Gilda, when she won the Emmy, she brought cookies the next day. And I go, it's happening. Yes. And then it was just dead silence. That is awesome. All you could hear was the bubbler from the fish tank. Really? It was dead silent. And he goes, do you have any questions for me? And he goes, besides, do I have the show? Or did I get the show? Right. All I could think of was, did Chris Farley really hit his head on those bars? Because when you walk out to audition, there's all this, you have to walk through a catwalk, and there's a sticker that says, watch your head, Chris. And the PA that was walking me up to the stage goes, oh, watch your head. Chris used to hit his head here. Oh, and really? I go, oh, Chris Farley? And this is like 10 seconds before I go up on stage. And I wanted to ask him that. I had all this stuff. And I'm like, am I really too tall for the show? All I could think of at the time was, do you like living in the city? And he laughed. He
Did
goes, because he was not ready. Yeah. I don't think he gets those kind of questions. I go, do you like living in the city? He goes, I like the city and the country. Enjoy drinks. And so the door opens, a door that I've never seen before.
That quick.
Opens again, and a couple of the head writers are taking me out to drinks. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is happening. And we go out, we do our stuff. I do my schmooze. I don't really drink a lot. And my dad was like, just get a gin and tonic or an old-fashioned. That's like a classic thing that shows like you're an adult.
Right.
Do my thing. And they go, well, we could see you as a writer or on the show. I'm like, great, bum. And they fly me back. I don't hear anything for 2 weeks. And at the time, during the summertime, I was working at Patagonia in Chicago. It's like selling coats and shorts. Sure. And I get a call out of nowhere from one of the producers at SNL saying, hey, we've never done this before, but we want to pay you not to be on the show. We want to hold you so you can't go anywhere. It's never happened before. So I was like, great, this is awesome. This is great. And that was the beginning of a year and a half of just me overthinking everything and not thinking I'm funny. Didn't get the show. Halfway through December of that holding deal, I had to decide between auditioning for The Daily Show or SNL. And I told you over coffee that call was within 3 minutes. Daily Show called. It was like, hey, John wants to fly you out to test. And I was like, great. 3 minutes later, SNL was like, hey, we heard you have an offer, and we just want to let you know we want to re-up it.
Right.
Okay, great. Nothing happened through that. Yeah. You know, Lorne put me in a movie, which was nice. I went through almost 2 years of just like, am I good at this?
How did you deal with that? What? Tell me about that, because that imposter syndrome that you mentioned earlier, the doubts. How did you struggle through all that and make it through?
I surrounded myself with people, number one, that just got me and understood it. And a lot of times you don't need to hear like you're good. A lot of times you just need people to just listen. Yeah. And that is, I can't tell you where to find those people. That just happens. The other thing is really trusting your skills. And remembering that you were invited to that. Yes. So that you have to remember, especially if you're in leadership, if you're in sales, you have to remember that you had that call, that you had that meeting. So you're at that level now. Yeah. Just so you know, you're at that level. Right. You need to remember that and reminding yourself of that. And I think there needs to be a good, healthy scoop of just self-awareness and grace. That, okay, I'm human, I fail. Also, now I know I can be empathetic to people that have gone through failure.
So good.
I know exactly how it feels. When you were talking about that boom, 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 those emails, like, hey, we're going a different direction. Yeah. This is great. Your content is great, but your social media stuff, it's growing, but it could be better. It's like, why do we even care about that? Why do we even? So my suggestion for people whenever they're going through this is feel what you want to feel. Well, and I always say 24 hours, feel what you want to feel. But then we have to say, okay, great. My skills are good enough that got me to this point. What can I build on? So that always goes back to what am I going to do when no one's looking? Yeah. And then because you never know when that door is going to open. That's right. And then that door closes and then some random door opens. Yeah. And then people are like, hey, we see you as this other thing. You're not great fit for here. Right. But man, you have a skill set and we see something in you. Can you do this? Yes. Yeah. And my suggestion to you, and it's not a blind yes, but if people see something in you and say, hey, would you like to do this? Always be upfront and then accept it. Be like, hey, I would love to. Just so you know, I've never done this, but I believe my skill set would be, and you see something in me. I may have some questions going forward, but I'm on board. Yeah. So that is my suggestion to you. It hurts though. When you were going to the thing, it
does hurt.
It sucks.
But there's this element of risk that you need to take and you need to recognize, like a country music singer. They don't just walk into Nashville and get on the Grand Ole Opry stage, right, automatically. They've got to play a lot of different dive bars, a lot of different audiences, do things for free, whatever it is. But eventually, to your point, if they have the talent, skill, and ability and they're different and somebody sees something in you, they're going to say, hey, your time will come. Just keep going after it and keep preparing for that opportunity.
And I think as leaders, voicing that, being vocal about that is going to help your team evolve so much. Where you're like, hey, I see what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing.
That's right.
Keep doing what you're doing because I see the drive and the skill. And then as leaders, surround those people with people that
So
can
good.
elevate that.
Yeah. Let's move real quick. We have
sure.
a few other questions to go before our time wraps up here.
Yeah, we're going 3 hours, right?
Yeah, well, another 4. I'm going to try to get
perfect.
past the Joe Rogan time. Get a Guinness Book World Record of
Sure,
podcast length, right?
You ready? Couple batteries.
And you have all day, don't you? He's like, go all day. Why not? Let's talk about, so you've gotten past, so those 2 years, you went through that kind of little bit of, maybe I would call a desert time.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's my words, but that's the way I would interpret it. Fast forward us now then to jury duty. Because you were part of an ensemble, I think, and you have been nominated, not necessarily for that show, but for other things, 4 times for Emmys. Is that correct?
Jury Duty was nominated 4 times.
Wow,
for
so
Emmys.
that was because it was a fantastic show. Yeah,
thank you
I had
so
a chance
much
to watch that.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, it's funny. I watched it a year and a half or 2 years ago from somebody else that recommended it to me. So that was kind of fun. Yeah. So before you and I met. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
But tell me a little. It was a huge success. What was that experience like, and how did it challenge you as an actor and comedian?
That so if you're not familiar with it, what we did was we Truman showed someone for 3 weeks. So
explain that because people aren't familiar with the
absolutely.
Right,
so yeah, I made a reference of a reference.
Yeah, right. That's right.
So, what we did was we found someone through Craigslist that wanted to be a part of the jury duty system. Yeah. So they could never have been a part of a jury or jury duty system, and they could never have been a part of a documentary. Okay. So we masked this whole thing as a documentary about the jury duty system. Right. But everyone is an actor. Everyone is an actor except for one person, Ronald. And 3,000 people applied on Craigslist, and we found Ronald. And it was lightly scripted. Yeah. But most of it was improvised. Yeah. So it's a lot of listening. It's a lot of, okay, this is happening over here. Yeah. I got to happen over here. I got to have my story. I got to back up everybody. And it challenged me. It challenged me in a way of, I've never worked with an ensemble that big on TV where there was no cuts. There was no like, all right, let's retake that again. Or let's, we'll do that again. Actually, can you just say that a little louder for next time? It was run and gun and just... It was a play. It was a live play. So that challenged me a lot. The other thing it challenged me with was there were some people that have never done improv before, and they're classically trained actors, but excuse me, they're just great character actors.
Sure. Yeah.
And it challenged me I wanted to help them out so much because there were times where I knew that they were struggling, but it challenged me in the way of like I need to just trust the process and what's happening because every day changed. My character ended up being like Coach. Right. I was like Coach Ross, and Ronald saw me as the person in charge. Okay, that was not the case the first day. My character, my audition, and the audition process was 3 months, and we actually had to do a lot of. The audition process was nuts, but my character originally started as this jokester. I had chattering teeth in my backpack. I had a whoopee cushion. Yeah. And then as soon as we had to choose the 4-person for the jury, Ronald was like, well, it should be Ross. And I'm like, I don't know. I got to get back to my kids. I have 26 kids in this show, but it's really I'm trying to get back to my wife. Right, you find out later we don't have a great relationship, and it's great. And that is a dream job that we all agree, all the actors agree, that it will never happen again.
That environment, the way things came together, that moment would never. Because it's hard to replicate, right? Because somebody would know already then that they may be being punked or however, right?
Absolutely,
Truman.
Absolutely, yeah. Truman and my thing is, I never wanted to be a part of a prank show, and so when I explain this to people, I have to say it's not a prank show. It's actually a story of the human spirit. Yeah, it's a hero's journey. We took someone that didn't think they could do something, put them around insanity at times, and they got out the other end being like, you're the hero. Yeah, like you treated everyone like when he didn't think that cameras were around, he treated the oddest person on our cast, David, who thought he was a robot. He treated that guy with so much respect. Yeah, and amazing. It was like we would hear these things the next morning, and we'd be like, holy cow, this is a great guy. Wait, we can't do this to him. We can't go to Margaritaville tomorrow. And that Margaritaville, I love telling people this. All those people in Margaritaville, extras. Really? Those are actors.
Oh, really?
Everyone you see on camera is an actor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So a fantastic experience.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all that.
But we learned, if you watch it, you learn a lot about just everyone being in the moment, everyone looking out for each other and just making sure everyone's looking great. And James Marsden was great.
Yeah.
He was a lot of fun. He had a lot of fun.
Really?
He had a lot of fun playing like an elevated version of himself, which we all would.
Yeah, it was,
like, wait, I can be kind of a jerk right now? Yeah, go for it.
Go for
like,
it.
all right.
Yeah, he was fun to watch.
He let it rip. It was fun to watch him.
Yeah, it was good. So with that success that you've had, begets other types of success, and you're making this transition now into what you're doing. I assume you're still acting, right? But you're also trying to help people develop their communication skills or leadership skills, different things. Tell us about that transition, kind of why you're doing that, because I'm sitting here listening, and you're doing a wonderful job improving in the moment, but you're making the link for the audience about what you're doing right now with the acting career, the lessons, and then how do we translate that to leadership? How do you pull the needle through? And that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about that transition.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm finding myself to be straddling on the fence, and I don't know if to go 100% either way, but right now I am still acting, I'm still writing, I'm still staying busy doing comedy. But the one thing I noticed was that leaders, that people that are so good at what they do, especially high-performing salespeople that are so good at what they do, and they know their stuff, but as soon as they get up in front of people, all of that credibility, all that confidence, that goes away. And what happens is you walk out of the meeting, and you're like, should have done this, should have done this. And I realized that all my years of failing, all my years of trying things, all my years of getting better at things, these are all skills. And what I've been doing slowly, my first person, and actually they asked me to do one of their big sales kickoffs in April. One of my first coaching clients was my friend, who he made the wiser decision and got into sales when I started doing comedy for free. And so, no, I'm kidding. That's a bit I do with my friends.
Yeah.
But as he was climbing the ladder and finding himself in these positions of, hey, I got to crush this presentation, otherwise I'm staying where I'm at. He would call me up and be like, hey, how can I do this? And his big issues were storytelling, transitions, and the not knowing how to end things.
That's hard.
Those filler
That's
words.
hard.
It's hard, and those are decisions.
Land the plane. It's hard to do. Right?
Absolutely, and that is what I've been doing. And I have workshops that I do. I do one-on-one coaching, and then I'm getting into speaking and hosting, and I love it because I'm finding people. That are especially high performers. There's such a connection, and I think that's why we have a connection too, where we get it, where we have to have this elevation of skill, this elevation of just mindset, and there has to be a connection there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I call it a nothing burger. You can have the best content in the world, but if there's no connection, if there's no one being like, you know what you just said, can you just tell me a little more about that? And again, you know your stuff.
Yeah.
So there should be, and I'm not saying there shouldn't be any nerves or any excitement, but how do we transition of, okay, I get to do this and I know my stuff. And listen, if someone has a question, I got this.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's interesting as I look at public speakers and I see a lot of keynotes. It's people have a lot of information, but if I can give somebody a nugget and think about the audience and how does something transform them or transformation, that makes a big difference in how you connect. And that's where the connection comes in. If you can connect with their mind, their heart, their soul, they'll take a nugget and won't go from one ear out the other, but they may take that back, even just one small thing, and make a change.
And that gets lost sometimes because a lot of people think, I have to have the data, I got to have the graph, I got to have the chart. That's all great. And I think we have to have that because that has to have some connection. But really having that, okay, what's one takeaway? And that's the one whenever I speak, I'm like, what is one thing that as soon as they hit those double doors, that they're going to be like, I got to think of that. Or like, oh, because he said you, not I or us, he said, when are you going to do that? It's like, whoa, okay, he's asking me. And those are just those little transitions that I love helping people, leaders, if you're talking, 40 times a year or 2 times a year. Those are the things where it's like, okay, we got to make impact. How are we going to do this?
Anytime I'm in front of a group to do a workshop, it's not a keynote necessarily, but a workshop. Like I've spent an hour or invested an hour and a half with somebody. At the very end, I'll ask them to write down. I'll tell them when I begin. I say, you're going to walk away with one thing. I'll have them write down their one thing on a worksheet I give them. But the funny thing is, I'll either have them share that with somebody else at the table, or most recently, I was at Coca-Cola Consolidated in Charlotte, and I spoke to their top executives. And it's funny, I had them all stand up, and I had a microphone down there, and I said, I want you to share what your one thing is. And here's the thing, you can't say ditto. You can't say the exact same thing as somebody else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so for them to be able to walk around, have, 50 plus leaders say what their one thing is and articulate and think that through, they could say it. Hopefully they took that away. Now, the fun thing about what they did, the leadership team, is they took all the feedback and they put it into a word cloud.
Oh, nice.
Right, and then they started saying what were the themes maybe that the people got out of it. But that's taking it to another level. But I get what you're saying. If you can get somebody to take one thing away from everything that you share, and the funny thing, Ross, too, is I might think that one thing that they should get is often different than what they share or say.
100%. 100%. It's always, I mean, parlay that to comedy. It's the one thing that you don't think is going to be funny.
Yeah.
It's that throwaway line. You're like, well, they got the biggest pop of the night. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, really. It's just like the story that you shared about Lorne Michaels, right? He liked that one story out of your 5 minutes that you thought was funny, and you were like, well, okay.
That's kind of my weakest bit. Yeah, you just never know. But I do love that, and I do the same with paper, but also everyone has the phone. I just say, hey, open up your notes app. I want you to write it down. And actually having them stand up and do it, it's so great because you never know. You have your thing, but you might hear someone else say something that's like, oh, man, that's good too.
Yeah, so it's what I call a knockdown drill. So they all get to sit down when they walk.
Yeah, I love it.
You see a bunch of executives stand like, oh, gosh, I got to do this. But it worked out well.
You got to adjust my
right. Very good. Hey, let's go to this last question. I want to just ask, maybe as time allows, we got a few more minutes on some questions maybe that the audience might be interested in.
Sure.
That you can help us with. I want to hear one setback or failure that was a tipping point for you. Something that where it didn't set you back, but it launched you forward. Just one circumstance that you say, oh, when I look back on my career so far, here's that one thing. And then how did it help you?
This is great. Well, like you, I've failed a lot, which is great.
Thank you. Mine are well documented too.
Well, also, Preston, I really appreciate you letting me email that to you every day at 8 p.m. I just let you know, man, you failed so much.
Thank you.
I will say that when I auditioned for Second City, and I bombed that audition so bad, and that was early into my comedy career, I promised myself that I was just going to work really hard, not to the point where I'm like constantly thinking about it, but I'm going to really take advantage of the opportunities that I have in Chicago because I can get up on any stage any night. That I was going to say yes to opportunities just to get better and more comfortable in my own skin. Yeah. That was the one tipping point. And I credit that failure and really getting up in my head and overthinking that to who I am now. Because whenever I work with people, and these are people that are crushing it. Whenever I work with people, when it comes to public speaking or performance, I know exactly how it feels to be up in your head. Yeah. I know exactly how it feels to be overwhelmed. Yep. Even though you know your stuff, I have to stop people and say, you know this stuff. Just so you know, like, you know this. And how are we going to get from here? How are we going to show people that you know this stuff? Yeah. So that would be the one failure. Also breaking up with my wife when we were dating the first time. I shouldn't have done that.
Well, there you go. Right. But you learned the mistake and you all
big time.
So.
Oh, yeah. When we broke up, she walked away and I was like, if she turns around, I'm going to run to her. If she turns around, I'm going to run to her. Then turn around. And then I was like, oh, okay, I love this woman even more. Yeah, right. Because she's so strong.
Good for you guys. That's awesome. Yeah,
it's been great.
I remember it's just a story that I hearken back in the recesses of this memory, one brain cell that I have left.
Well, it's working overtime.
Yeah, it's working
great.
overtime.
It's great.
But there's a lady named Alta Faye Fenton, and she was leading our Sunday school class in Birmingham, and she was so knowledgeable. Yet I could see that she wasn't confident up there. And I'll never forget going up to her, and she was, I think maybe a generation above me, right?
Yeah.
So
how old were you?
Oh, I think.
No, how old were you when you noticed
32, 35 or something like that.
You were
I was
32?
working. I was working for Dale Carnegie.
Oh, okay. I see.
So I had all this. I was cocky. I'm going to help somebody with their confidence.
I thought you were 10 years old and being like, hey, why are you so nervous? Okay. So you're older.
So there's a Sunday school class my wife and I were in. But I went up to Alta Faye and I said, Alta Faye, you've got so much inside of you, and you've earned the right to be here. And she told me later on, just that simple, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but it's as a leader, you see the opportunity to go up to somebody, to pour into somebody and instill confidence. So I've been listening to her for a couple of years and then seeing this and finally going up and say, you're wonderful. You've earned the right to be here. you need to have confidence.
And everybody wants you to crush. Everyone wants to hear what you have to say.
And it's amazing what happened over the next year or two. I mean, as I listened to her, it was just she'd come in buoyed with this confidence and the way she presented and shared and all that. So it just takes a second to share with somebody that you believe in them, right?
Yeah.
Makes a big difference.
At least a second. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah,
it's
good
great
stuff. Sorry, it took me a minute to spit all that out, but again, that one brain cell was chugging.
You're fine. I loved it. Everyone followed along. I loved it.
Yeah, good.
It was great. I interrupted too. I thought you were 10 years old, being like,
"That's okay.
Hey, listen, we love you."
Well, I didn't explain the story very well, right? You're like my wife. Like, wait a minute, Preston, where are you?
Well, also Sunday school harkens me back to when you're little. Yeah, big time.
Yeah, got it. Very good. Let me go through these real quick. These are just meant to be pithy answers about if we had some additional time to cover for the audience that's listening, and so they're going to cover these real quick. And then I know that we have some off-script, maybe some lightning round questions, and I'm scared about what you're going to ask me because I've offered for you to ask me some of them too. So let's do that. So first, let's talk about the risk of fear. Why do people struggle to take risks, and how do you overcome the hesitation?
They think about other people too much. They think about what the other person's thinking of. They think that there's constant judgment when there really isn't, because other people are thinking about other things.
Yeah.
And I think it would go back to the Simon Sinek thing, which has been around forever, but he has a platform to say it. But really have the mindset of a giver. Like what I have to say is important. People out here want me to do good, which is my whole thing is like people want you to crush. Like remember that. Selfishly, they want you to do good because no one wants to sit there with their butt cheeks clenched the whole time. You know,
right.
So that's what I would do. Just switching the mindset of everyone wants you to do great. Sometimes you have to like lie to yourself for a few days, and then you actually have to believe it.
That's right. Well, I think part of what you just said there was this mental talk that we have, right? That goes on.
Yep.
I think stats tell that 8 out of 10 thoughts that we have every day are negative. Did you know that?
100%. Yeah. Oh yeah, I believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do you shift that and make that 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, right? And having that positive reinforcement instead of being a critic, being a champion or a cheerleader.
Yeah. Even if it's after a virtual call, being like, that went great. Like saying it out loud. It's like, hey, that was fun.
Yeah. Right. Still waiting for the phone call and saying, hey, that was awful. What happened? We're never hiring you again or whatnot. That would hurt. Hey, let's talk about this. Tell me about the role of humor in leadership. What role does it play? How does it help leaders recover from failure and maintain resilience?
I think it's super important. I think you have to have a sense of humor, and not that you have to be funny. I think there is an emphasis of like humor in the workplace, having a sense of humor, and that goes to just being gracious about yourself, being like, I messed up that one. I apologize. Yeah. I think adding up to it, and like you even mentioned it really quick, where it's like, it took me a long time to get the story out, and we can all relate to that. But also, you saw me be super gracious, like, no, we got it. We let it was great.
Yeah, thank you.
But you saying that out loud, and I think a lot of times leaders it actually makes it worse when you're like,
you recognize.
You're like,
wait a second.
you can fix your shoe.
Yeah,
like,
right.
And mentioning it really quick and having that self-awareness and grace is huge. That's all I have to say about that.
One thing that's helped me, and I love this improv idea, because I think improv helps with interactions, obviously with people, but I've sit at dinner tables often at business dinners, and everybody's stuffy, and I always had this sense of playfulness. Now, I have to know when the timing is right. You can't do it in front of...
And that's comedy.
Right?
It's timing, yeah.
Well, there you go. But that was later on in my career, I learned to take risks and be playful with people and poke at them a little bit, and then the mood lifts a little bit. The things come out, the shoulders drop, and everybody relaxes. The wine, they start, it's good, so it's fun. But I think that just that sense of humor, poking fun at myself makes a big difference. Not taking us self so seriously. Those are all important.
I think I just want to end this where it's taking that risk of playfulness, but trusting those skills where it's like, if you're a communicator, you know how to get out of those things. Where if someone doesn't take it, you can be like, oh, all right, well, hey, you want to pass the bread?
Yeah,
how do we keep it moving instead of just staying on here?
Yeah, that's like many networking opportunities. I suck at networking.
I
mean, moving from person to person.
That's so hard for me to believe.
Oh, no. I've learned over time, but when you get to a certain conversation and then there's like crickets for a second, and then that person peels away from you, you're like, oh, damn. What do I do?
Oh, when the person is like...
like, it's the walk away,
you're not going to say anything? No goodbye? No.
Yeah, really. You're like, oh, that was great.
That makes me laugh sometimes, where I just have to like turn around like, hey, that was bold. Yeah. That's not even an Irish goodbye.
Yeah,
like,
no, I know. Exactly. Or with Dale Carnegie, I learned the conversation stack. So there's this imagery that we teach people or taught people at the time about questions you can ask. And so I can be in conversation with somebody for an hour, right? Just asking questions.
Yeah,
you don't want to be that guy, right? That you've isolated the VP over there.
Job
and you're sitting there for an hour. It's just, those things to learn.
But sometimes, and there's a flip of a coin with that, and we can move on to the next one, where that person will walk away after you asking 100 questions, being like, Preston's really good at listening.
That's right.
So you just never know what. And I think that goes to the self-awareness.
Yes.
Which, if I was a Marvel character, that would be my superpower.
Self-awareness.
Like, you have self-awareness.
Very nice.
You have more self-awareness.
Very good. That's so true. But it's there's another thing I learned at Dale Carnegie is the way to be the most, I guess, interesting person in the room or at the dinner table is to ask questions, because they'll walk away and say, "Oh, I really liked Ross."
And you become
he
top
didn't
of mind.
say anything, right?
Yeah.
Because you were really interested in the other individual and asking questions.
And having that genuine interest is huge.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. How about the almosts? You've had a lot of almost during your career, like Emmy. I hate to throw that at you, but your team had the 4 Emmy nominations. You're almost there. What have you learned from the almosts?
I think it goes back to what I just said, where you are at that level now, even though it didn't happen. You know that your skill set and the people that you've put in your life, you are at that level now.
Yeah.
So you need to remember that and remind yourself there. And there are so many things. I've auditioned for Marvel things. I auditioned for a show that is super popular now. I auditioned for a show that I thought was going to be huge. Halfway through the audition, I couldn't keep the accent, so I just stopped and I said, "I'm sorry," and I just walked away. I walked out of the room.
Really?
Oh, I've never bombed an audition so hard in my life. There's a joke in the acting community where, like, it's a bad audition when you drop $71 at Taco Bell on your way home. Like that's a rough audition, and you just throw it in park and you find a spot.
Man. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. That's almost. I had it's interesting when you get to that point, and Rick Kerr, I've talked about Rick he's one of my mentors at Coke, and he was a Washington Redskin offensive lineman that played for Joe Gibbs, won a Super Bowl. And so I always respected him a whole bunch. And he actually sat on my personal advisory board. So I have a group of people that sit around me. I'm on version 2.0 right now. But 6 people that I lean into. I share intimate things, inner circle type thing. And Rick was on the first version of that. And I was talking about the book that I opened up about with Disciple Leader earlier on. And I talked about it getting published, and the award, it did get an award. It actually got through the threshold on that. And I said, "But Rick, it's no Super Bowl. No Super Bowl ring, no Super Bowl trophy." It was quiet for a minute. He goes, "But Preston, it's your Super Bowl." And I thought, man, what an encouragement, right? Just to take a minute, pour into me and say, believe in what's happened here. That's good stuff, right? And just enjoy the moment. So I think that's important for all of us to do.
And if you don't have that, find that person in your life that just that makes you realize, hey, what you did is amazing. And enjoy this. And I think as high performers and leaders, we don't do that enough to ourselves.
Right.
Take that moment of like, okay, that was great, because we're on to the next 8 things.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of going on to the next 8 things,
all
let's
right, we'll
move
see
from
ya.
this. Yeah, we're done. See everybody. Hey, let's real quick. I want to go to some of these lightning round questions.
Sure.
We aren't doing this as much in the episodes, but Andy, I surprised you with this. It's off the script. This is block D right now that we're in. Whoa. And so, so the intent when I did these lightning round questions was to get to know the person a little bit more. We talked about human connection, right?
But we're old friends.
We're old friends. So, and so the idea is just to ask some fun things that maybe you could tell us a little bit more. Mine are probably a little bit more deep, right? Right than you are. I can tell you very superficial, Ross.
We're going to see.
No, I'm just kidding. So go ahead. I got a couple questions, but do you have anything you want to start with?
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Lake or ocean?
Ocean.
Gummy candy or chocolate candy?
Hershey chocolate.
Great answer. I knew you were going to say that. That's all I got.
That's all you got?
For me?
I like the F4. That's great.
I may have one.
One more.
Okay. I want to say this. If someone was new into leadership, they were just promoted to something where now it's not just them, but they have a team. What is, I'll create the scenario. You are on the first floor, you both walk in the elevator, and you have to go up to the 21st floor. In that elevator ride, what would you tell them?
I wouldn't tell them. I'd ask them questions to get to know them.
Yeah.
I would. I think that's one of the most important things, is to understand each individual, what their talent, skills, and abilities are, and then how you can help them. So not to flip that on you, but that's a change in attitude. I would have ridden up the elevator. There was a time at Coke I had this transformation that happened in my life, and so the first elevator ride early on would have been, well, let me tell you how you do things. The second half was like, how can I help you?
Yes.
Or tell me about yourself. What's your goal, your aspiration? I don't mean to sound like that was a holy change or moment, but it was a total mindset shift and heart shift about the way I approach things. Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And I would do.
And you weren't expecting that answer.
No, I wasn't. And I would do the same thing because that's what I do. Whenever I meet people that are either new in the entertainment industry or they're new to speaking or they're like, hey, I'm trying to get into this new thing. I'm like, well, what is the end goal? Or like, what are you feeling this way? The questions are great. And also, hey, here's my number or here's my email. Yeah. Which is what we did. And that's why I think about we connected.
So it goes back because I had somebody tell me early on when I was working, I won't say what company, told me I was a taker, not a giver. Ugh. Let that sink in. And so to your point, when you used that earlier about being a giver, that's so important for us to take and dignify the other individual and figure out how I can give. Let me give you an example. How you started our relationship. I put a post out, right? It was a video of standing with a phone down here, looking up my nose, and I'm talking about shoveling the driveway and a lesson I learned from that. And you were so kind in the way you gently sent me a video and said, hey, Press, I hope you don't mind this. You don't take this wrong. Here's how you can improve that. And I was like, now there's a guy that's not looking for something from me, but was just making a kind gesture to help me in my presence. And I passed that on to some other people too, right? I said, hey, you consider this. I got some great advice. Yeah. But so thank you. That's part of giving, not taking.
No, I appreciate that.
So
yeah.
Really good. Yep. Let me throw 3 questions at you real quick. Okay, ready? What's a hobby or interest that you have that might surprise our fans?
Bigfoot. Bigfoot is a little dumb bit. I started in Chicago and then I started really looking into it, and I have a thing on.
Do you actually believe in Bigfoot?
No,
do you think he's a Sasquatch walking through Washington State somewhere?
I'll just say this: the reason why we can't find Bigfoot bones is because other Bigfoot eat the bones. I'm just gonna say that, and that is something I wrote. I wrote a mockumentary about Bigfoot.
A mockumentary,
and there are so many YouTube videos on these homemade documentaries about and. Yeah. One guy said that on a homemade documentary, and it has not left my brain
because it's stuck.
It's so crazy, but also it's a lock solid logic.
Yeah, no, it is. It makes sense to me. Gosh, okay, but that's when I was a kid growing up. Bigfoot, when you'd see those videos, this is before internet and everything else, you would see. Then you also had the Loch Ness monster. Those types of myths, like do they exist or whatnot, kind of fun.
I just think it's fun. Yeah.
Tell me, this is a little bit more of a serious question. How has becoming a parent impacted your approach both to your personal and your professional life?
I think I'm in a unique position because my professional life has been like playfulness and my just improv mindset of like always playing, always yes-anding. And so playing with kids has always been a part of my life and really instilling into my children that I never want them to stop playing or like having that mindset of just being creative or like helping other people out. And like, so implementing those, again, pillars of improv in my life have been great. Also, I just love communicating so much. I don't know how to answer this because I don't know how to answer this because it's been great. I think my background of communicating and improvising and like being playfulness, I did marry a very serious person. Okay. So at times I do have to like remember that.
Yeah.
That money is a real thing and that, and that like we have like there's a cause and effect.
Practical to some things, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
So I would say it's helped me in this new, I'll tell you what, it's helped me professionally in this new arena that I'm in where I had to really get over the imposter syndrome of, okay, well, Ross, like you are this like Hollywood guy on LinkedIn or like meeting these people, like, what do you have to offer? And then meeting people like you and some other people in my life, you telling me, no, there's something to offer here and people would want it. It's just, how do we actually brand you this way? Or how do we introduce you to people in a way where they're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So implementing that improv mindset of, okay, I need to get over myself and people want to help more than you think.
Right.
And that's a huge thing that I didn't realize that all you have to do is ask. And it's a yes, that's huge. If it's a no, it's like, all right.
Yeah.
And then we're on to the next one.
Yeah. Really good.
Yeah. That's a longer answer.
That's okay.
Question,
no, really. No, thank you for that. Real quick as we end up. Okay. So chocolate gummies for you?
I'm a Hershey chocolate guy.
Really? Okay.
I mean, I have to be, right?
Yeah. Well, you've got to be, kind of, right? That's very good. Not a Mars guy.
No,
we appreciate the Hershey's chocolate. Cake or pie?
Oh, here's I'll do cake.
You'll do cake.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'll do cake.
All right. And ocean or mountains?
Ocean or mountains? Mountains. Okay, also we need to talk about this for 3 seconds. Is a hot dog a sandwich or its own thing?
Its own thing. What about you?
That's why I like this guy. It's its own thing.
Bada bing.
What are you talking about?
Bada bing. All right. Good. Ross, you've been awesome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I hope the audience enjoyed listening to today's episode. It's been a lot of fun. We talked about rejection, failure, but also note the sense of humor. We've both learned so much on our journey and our paths along, and then hopefully giving the things that we've learned to others. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to it, if you will, on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And man, let other people know about it. We'd love to have more people hear about what we're talking about on PQ. I'm Preston Poore. This is PQ. Take care and talk soon.